Welcome back to the channel. I'm your host Daniel James, and as always, if you're new here, welcome. This week, I'd like to share with you an interview that I did with the Hike with Mike Foundation just before Christmas. The interview was me and Simon finding out a little bit more about me and what I do. And this week, I have been so snowed under with work that I did not have time to record a full-length episode for you. As you know, each week, I like to really deep dive a topic and give you some real usable, actionable steps that you can take forward into your week. So I'd like to apologise if this is not a regular episode. However, I know that you'll take some real value from the interview that I did with Simon. Enjoy, and I'll see you next week.
Hi, I'm Simon from the Hike with Mike Foundation, being joined today with Dan James from the Prime Life Project. Dan, do you want to take a moment to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you very much, Simon. Thanks for having me. Really looking forward to having this conversation with you. So my name's Daniel James. I'm a mindset and high performance coach, and I'm the owner of the Prime Life Project. So that's me in a nutshell.
Nice, mate. Well, thank you for taking the time out for joining us. We're doing a short mini-series at the moment, trying to talk to some people that are specialists in the field, ideally to give a few tips and advice around mental health in general, some coping strategies, giving people a bit of insight into the way you work. But if you wouldn't mind sort of kicking us off with a bit of your backstory and a bit of an overview as to what got you to becoming the Prime Life Project and what that means.
I'll take it from the beginning, and I'll kind of skip through because obviously we're here all day to share my story. But for me, I had a fairly average upbringing. There's nothing really special to write home about. But when I was at school, I got quite badly bullied for being dyslexic. So it's something that I had a massive hang up about. And as I sort of look back through my early years at school, that's when I really noticed my depressive tendencies kicking in. I had no idea what it was, but I kind of noticed that I was not really feeling great, feeling a bit low. I just call it feeling numb. Didn't think anything of it because God, you're thinking, 20 years ago, no one really spoke about any of this sort of stuff. So I just carried on going through life. And it only was in my 30s that sort of things kind of clicked together, that's where it all started. But for me, the Prime Life Project came about because I got into the fitness industry. I was stepping on stage doing all this stuff, competing. And because of that, I then fell into modeling. So through the whole modeling thing and whatever else, I got quite a bit of exposure on me. And there's never anything I really wanted to do. There's nothing that kind of I set myself out to be doing. So although on my social media you'd have seen this amazing lifestyle, quote unquote, of me having a successful business, stepping on stage, being a model, the reality was very, very different. And what was actually happening was my mental health was just slowly declining. And for people that kind of knew me well, I was hiding it even better.
Yeah.
For me, it's every day. I put on a mask. So I put on this mask, pretend I was okay, and every day it got harder and harder and harder to wear until one day I just kind of had this burning desire not to be here. And then sort of fast forward, I then realized a lot of my clients were struggling with very similar things. So yes, they were coming to me because they wanted to have six-pack abs or bigger chest or bigger bum, whatever it was. But then they'd associate that with happiness. When I get this, I'll be happy. So then what essentially was happening was I was life coaching them. Not intentionally, I knew nothing about this stuff, but I was kind of like, hey, like I've kind of just gone through this thing. This helped me, try this. And then I realized that's actually where my passion lied. So I basically created a team of coaches where they would deal with the fitness side of stuff. And then I would then focus on the mindset, mental health side of things. And then did like an NLP course, got myself qualified with stuff. And then eventually got to the point where I really fell out of love with the fitness industry and kind of what it had become, which is like very egotistical, people showing off, people not telling the truth, not being transparent with what they're doing. So I left that and then moved the Prime Life Project to now what it is, which is me going into schools, universities, organizations, and basically talking about mindset and mental health and giving people the tools to help them get themselves out of a sticky situation that they're in. So that's me and my journey in a nutshell.
No, nice. Thank you. Thank you for being so open about it. I think one thing I took from that we hear all the time is that not believing everything you see on social media and how easy it is to get yourself into a negative mindset from seeing from the outside in of what it looks like someone's got everything. So I think for people to hear you say that and hear how you sort of put it behind you and moved on from it, it's quite refreshing and quite nice to hear. So thank you.
For me, what I say to people is that when I was at my lowest, when I literally would be in bed crying because I was so miserable, that is when I'd be posting pictures of me topless. That's when I'd be posting pictures of me on a beach. That's when I'd be posting all these pictures because I wanted people to think, oh, Dan's living his best life. But the reality was very, very different. So I always say to people, don't judge your life on someone else's highlight reel. Because even me, I'm very, very transparent. through my podcast and my talks. Like you've seen me talk once. Like I'm very open and transparent. I'll happily answer any questions. But even me, with my awareness, my transparency, I'm only sharing what I want to share. So you're never getting someone's full story. You're getting what they want you to see. So it's just taking a step back, and when you're seeing this stuff, especially if it's triggering you, and just saying, is this actually reality, or is this what they're wanting me to see?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think we're all guilty of falling for it, even though we know we shouldn't. It's very easy to look, and with the Christmas period coming, so easy to look and compare your Christmas, compare your life to everyone else. So no, that's great. So just with, you said you're at your very lowest, you moved away from the fitness industry. What was the sort of the main tool in your toolbox, if you like, that helped you come away from this state of despair and start picking things up personally for you?
The biggest thing for me that helped was talking. And I know that it sounds like it's like the most basic thing everyone says, oh, you've got to talk. But what I always talk about is you've got to talk to the right person.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the time we will talk to our best friend, knowing full well that best friend isn't the most empathetic or sympathetic, and also can't keep a secret. Because they're our best friend, we think, oh yeah, I'll open up and share with them. And what can happen is, especially as men, this is not specific to men, is that if the person is not in a place to receive that information, it can almost dishearten you from sharing. So if you go and say, oh, listen, mate, I'm really struggling at the minute. And the first thing is, what? Like, man up and shut up. You're like, oh, I'm going to do that again. And it might be actually you've triggered something in them that they don't want to address, or they don't have space to deal with that. So if, when I say talk to someone, it's talking to the right person. Now, again, you've got amazing helplines out there. If you don't have any friends like that, some great helplines. But it's finding that one friend who may not necessarily be your best friend, but is a person that you know has maybe gone through some stuff themselves. They're very, very trustworthy, and they've got time and space to handle that information. Go and speak to them, say, hey, can I grab 5 minutes of your time? Can I take you for a coffee, whatever it is? And just open up to them. Because even if they can't help you, they can handle that information because they may have been through it themselves or something similar. So they'll be able to understand where you're coming from. Even if they can't necessarily help, they can hold that space for you. So for me, the most basic thing is just sharing it. Because the very first time that I vocalized I was struggling, mate, the weight that felt had been lifted off my shoulders was unbelievable. And I didn't even want to talk about it. Someone basically, so I was working in a restaurant. When I hit rock bottom, I lost everything and basically got to thousands of pounds worth of debt. Had to be back home with my parents at 28. And I was working back in this restaurant I'd worked at when I was 18. And this woman who was in her late 30s just looked at me and went, you are not okay. You're driving me home tonight and you're going to talk to me all about it. And I was thinking, shut up, not. Anyway, got there. And she said, go on then, talk. And it was literally like verbal diarrhea. I was like, boom. And I don't know what I was saying to her, but it was just coming out and coming out and coming out. And afterwards, I was just like, wow, I really needed that. I had no idea how much I needed to talk about this stuff I didn't even know I needed to talk about. So for me, the first thing is just actually getting it out there, because when you speak it out, it basically is you saying, hey, do you know what? I'm actually not okay. And I probably do need a bit of help. So it kind of goes hand in hand with that acceptance that you're not okay, accepting the reality of where you are, and then taking that first step to just share that with the right person so that they can then help you either themselves or guide you in the right path.
Yeah, no, nice, thank you. And I think on that, I think one of the sort of the USPs, if you like, of the Hike with Mike Foundation is the monthly hikes we have, where there are anywhere from sort of 50 to 80 people come with who don't necessarily know each other or know each other well, and it's not set out to solely talk about mental health. It's set out for give people a little bit of company, have a chat, have a laugh, and get some exercise in, really. But the amount of times that little sub pockets of people will end up in very deep conversations regarding mental health is I guess everyone's come with that agenda in mind, that it's sown the scene that it's a mental health charity, but it's a great place. So anyone that is struggling, I think, watching this, highly recommend coming along to a monthly hike, sorry, and try and get off your chest.
But I think the great thing said about that is, and this is the whole thing with the stuff that you do, which is so great, is that you've got all these people. So you say you've got a lot on the next hike you're doing. You've got people at all different stages of their journey. So you have people like me. I will happily speak to someone about my journey. I'll happily go first and say, hey, here's my struggles. And then by one person being vulnerable and sharing it, even if someone's not comfortable opening up, they're like, I can resonate a bit of that. And then someone else will pop in. Oh, wow. And then that person that came just to kind of, like you said, just not be by themselves, they didn't really want to talk. But suddenly you get 3 or 4 people that start opening up and sharing that they've all struggled. They're like, wow, actually, I'm not the only one. And the amount of conversations I've had with people in the gym,
Yep.
Just randomly, where they'll introduce themselves, hey, what do you do? And I say, and they're like, oh yeah, like, and you can see they want to talk to me, but they're not sure how. And I'm like, yeah. So, and I'll just then for 5 minutes share my story, and then straight away their guard goes down, and then they'll start telling me about their story. And by the end of it, they're like, I've never told anyone that. And all it's taken is
Yeah.
me just to go first and say, hey, here's the stuff that I've gone through and what I struggle with. And then they feel comfortable sharing it. So what you've done with the Hype with Mike Foundation, like you and Mike and the rest of everyone that's there, have basically created an environment where people are at different stages. And because of different stages, people don't necessarily have to open up. They can just be in that environment and know, I'm not the only one that's going through this, or it's normal,
Exactly.
I feel this way. And that's the amazing beauty of it all.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And I think it moves nicely on, actually, because correct me if I'm wrong, but your way of working is very much promoting groups and group therapy, group accountability. Can you just give us a quick overview as to what your group setup looks like, or how you tend to work in that way?
Yeah. So again, I want to make it clear, it's not therapy. So I'm not a therapist or a counsellor. I work with therapists or counsellors. So if people do need that specialised stuff, I've got people in my armory that I can pass them on to. But for me, I call myself a coach. And for me, there's a difference
Okay.
between coaching and therapy and counselling. So what I do is I give people the tools. I call it pre-therapy. Because for me, I don't
Yes.
necessarily believe a lot of people need therapy and counselling unless it's something very specific, like a lot of trauma-based stuff and stuff like that. A lot of people are just struggling with their mental health. They're struggling with their mental fitness, as it were, and they basically need some tools and awareness to take control themselves. Because what I always say is that no one knows you better than you know yourself. The problem is we don't know how to get the answers from ourselves. So my job is to basically get you to look inwards and realize the answers that you've already got, and basically hold that mirror up to yourself and ask yourself those difficult questions and then work through that. So to answer your question, again, I do a lot of stuff on a one-to-one basis as well. So some people do
Right.
prefer the individuality side of stuff. Then with the group session, basically it's taking people through a 6-month program that I've created, where it takes people from this kind of place of being very unstuck, not sure what they want to do, where they want to go, not really understanding themselves, and basically guides them very strategically to a place where they gain that confidence, that clarity, and more importantly, control. Because that's what I feel like a lot of people lack is control of
Yeah.
their emotions, their actions, and more importantly, they lack the control to understand what's going on inside their minds. And again, the workshop that you came on, I would say to a lot of people, it's, are you having your thoughts or your thoughts having you? And for a lot of people, they're so stuck inside their own head. And I say, and again, I've been there, so this is me to a T. A lot of people are a prisoner inside their own minds, and they don't realize that they've got the key to get themselves out, because no one's ever
Yes.
taught them how to start to question, how to start to challenge, and how to start to redirect the thoughts so it can go down a more positive path. And then also go into organizations as well, work with groups and teams, whatever it is, like strategic stuff. Because as I always say, when I go into organizations, you want the outcome. It could be the sales team to make more sales, the recruiters to make more placements. It could be whatever it is. But realizing that that comes off the back of them being okay, because if they're struggling with money, if they're struggling with family issues, if they're struggling to get out of bed every morning, that's the thing that's going to affect the output. You get them
Yeah.
to try and work harder. Most of them struggle. They don't care. They're struggling to get through the day, and you're trying to put more pressure and more pressure, realizing the reason why they might not be getting the output over here is because there's something actually going on, either internally or outside their control at home, and they don't
Yeah.
have the tools to deal with that. So when I go to organizations, it's basically helping them with that to get the ultimate outcome, which is better recruitment strategy or more sales or whatever that is. So it's not just individuals or groups; it's also with organizations as well.
Nice. No, thank you. And I think just wanted to circle back actually to something you mentioned earlier on in the call. You said people, when they try and talk, they're told a lot of the time to talk to people, talk to anyone, open up. And I personally think the big issue there is we're never really taught to listen. So when
Yes.
someone does talk to us, we don't really know how to react. We don't really know how to communicate, and we don't really know how to respond. But what advice would you give to someone who perhaps doesn't come naturally to them, but a friend does open up to them, or a family member does open up to them? What advice would you give in that instance?
So when they start to, it depends how they start the conversation. So if they start the conversation and say, hey, like I'm really struggling with something, can I talk? Can I open up to you, whatever it is? But if that's how they're starting it, to pre-frame it, because
Yep.
sometimes they don't. I've had it before where someone messaged me saying, hey, Dad, can we go for a walk? I was like, cool, like, I'm not seeing this guy for about 4 years. Like, yeah. I had no idea what we were going to talk about. The stuff that was unloaded on me, I was not prepared for. And I really had to then go home and like process what had just been said because I wasn't prepared. I thought we were just chatting. But
Yep.
normally people will pre-frame it and say, hey, can we have this chat? Now, if they're pre-framing it, what you want to do as a listener is say, do you want me to listen? Do you want me to help? Or do you want my advice?
Yeah.
What do you want? Like, what do you want to do? Do you want me to just listen to you? Like, you just talk and I'll just sit here and listen. Do you want any help with anything? Like, what is it? Or do you want me to give you some action steps? Because they may not want you to help them. They may want you to just listen. So if they say, oh, listen, I just want you to just sit there and listen. Okay. So your job then is to, as we just said, just listen. Just sit there and listen. And then at the end, do you want my advice? Not really. Okay, cool. And don't take that personally, because that's not what they wanted. What they wanted was just to unload. But actually, be saying, do you want help with this? Like, do you want me to give some action steps at the end of this? Like, is that what you wanted? Yeah. I've got nowhere. I don't know what to do. I just need to unload this, and I really need you to just kind of help me. Now, at that point, you can say, hey, if I can, I will. If not, we can work through this together. So what you're doing is you're just pre-framing it at the start of the conversation of, yeah, listen, I'm happy to listen, but what do you actually want from me? Because all too often we can go in there and start to give action steps. Oh, you should do this, you should do that. The person doesn't want that. The person just wants you to listen and they just want to unload. They don't even know what they're going to say. They don't even know what they want. So just let them talk. And then at the end, you can ask, do you want my advice? Or you just still want me to just take that? And then my advice is actually, sorry, carry on.
I laughed and agree, because when I went through it myself and I did have outside help and specialist help, but the same scenario, I would often get myself to the right answer by just opening up and essentially someone not talking back and having the stage, if you like, for a few minutes to just talk and someone not being able to reply. Just got myself to the answer a lot of the time, and or even to just be able to process it out loud and say it out loud just really did help. So thank you.
What I call my clients, and I teach clients, called 3 H's. So again, it's just going to be I use it in a relationship setting or in that setting we just said. It's the 3 H's. Do you want me to hug you, hear you, or help you? Because sometimes people just want to hug. So do you want to hug? Do you want me to hear you, just listen? Or do you want me to help you? The 3 H's. And again, it can also happen in relationships as well, because sometimes, like, we think our partner wants help, they don't, they just want to hug.
Yeah.
Or they just want to be heard. So the 3 H's is a really powerful concept I teach people when it comes to this communication thing of, like, what is it this person wants? And obviously, if they want a hug, make sure you don't just go give them a hug. Make sure you ask him permission first. Just go around hugging people randomly.
Yeah. I thought you were going to say the third one was hit you. So sometimes I need it to get you back down to reality. But no, nice. And so you obviously talked a lot on the seminar I came on about negative thoughts, reversing negative thoughts. A massive topic in its own right. But is there any pointers you could give to someone that's currently suffering from negative thoughts, and how you would go about reversing them in the first instance?
So again, I said massive topic. Again, is the whole premise of it. So in a nutshell, and again, anything I say here, please take it very, very loosely with a pinch of salt, because I'm just giving a bit of an overview here. The first thing is awareness. So the very fact that you are aware that either you're stuck in a negative thought pattern or you're hooked on a negative thought, great. Like that's a big win. Because a lot of the time, especially if you're struggling with depression or you're in a dark place, you're not actually aware of the fact you're caught in a negative thought pattern. So the very fact that you're aware of it, although it may not seem like a positive, it's a massive positive. Because once you're aware of it, you can then do something about it. And that's the thing where, again, myself, therapists, counselors can really help you kind of figure that out. But awareness is the first thing. Now, a lot of the time when we get these stuck in these negative thoughts, we then don't stop to question them. And a lot of these thoughts may have come from an ex-partner, a teacher. Could have been thoughts that were planted years ago. You've never, ever stopped to just question this thought that's recurring in your mind. So one of the biggest things for me was, you'll never amount to anything. And that'd be a thought that always pop in my head, and always be there, always be there. There's only when I really picked it that I realised it came from my year 11 history teacher. She stood me up in front of the whole class and said, you are never going to amount to anything in your life. Now, the emotion charged with that was also the fact that I fancied the girl that was in front of me. So I had that embarrassment of that, and then the power of her saying that and embarrassing me in front of the whole class, and I stood up. And then I looked at the trajectory of my life. Any time I started to get any success, I was the one that was ruining it, because I'm not going to amount to anything. So when I started to amount to something, can't have that. And what would happen is this voice would convince me, you can't do this, you're not good enough. So then I would stop doing the stuff that got me the success, and then it would go down again. And my whole life was literally like a roller coaster, up and down. So the first thing is awareness. The second thing is starting to question, well, where's this thought come from? And you may not know, but actually if you spend the time to ask yourself, where is this thought, this recurring thought come from? Like this thought pattern, why do I always seem to get myself into this negative cycle? And what is the negative cycle? Because we're creatures of habit and there will be patterns there. And maybe the first time you ask yourself that question, you won't know the answer. But just like anything, when you first rode your bike, you're going to be terrible at it the first time. So the more you start to ask yourself and start to question, where's this come from? That's interesting. Why do I keep doing this? You will start to unpick it slowly and slowly and slowly. And then the third part of this for me is just distancing yourself from the thought. Because a lot of people don't realize that they are not their thoughts. They have this little voice inside their head that everyone's got, and they think, wow, it's me talking to me. No, it's not. It's not. It's this construct, the ego, whatever you want to call it, this construct of voices. You are the one that's listening. So when you're having this thought and you say, I am never going to amount to anything, that's a very finite me. Me, Daniel James, as a human being, as an entity, I am never going to amount to anything. Well, no, I'm just having the thought that I'm never going to amount to anything. So what I always say is, once you notice this thought, say to yourself, me, Daniel James, the best version of me, I am noticing that I am having the thought that I'm never going to amount to anything. Because then what happens is it separates you from the thought. When you can separate yourself from the thought, you can then get that space. And from this amazing vantage point, you can look at that thought and really unpick it. Because now you're not making it about you. Because a lot of time it comes to failure. It's like, I'm a failure. But no. Just because something hasn't worked out in your life, maybe your relationship's failed, a business hasn't worked, maybe you've lost your job, like you as a human being are not a failure. There's a big difference between failing at something and being a failure. But because we don't catch ourselves, we'll say, I am. It's a very personal attack on us. So it's just getting that distance and noticing, hey, me, the best version of me, I am noticing that I'm having the thought. I'm not my thought, I'm having my thought. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I think I couldn't do it, and I've tried it, but I think journaling and gratitude lists are two great ways that everyone else tells me are really good to get yourself into that mindset.
Yep.
I found journaling particularly hard. I didn't give it a good shot, to be fair, but I know you've spoke about it before. But gratitude, I think definitely.
What do you find hard about journaling?
I think I find it hard to take myself seriously. So it felt very Adrian Mole-esque, sort of Dear Diary, and writing about myself, and just I didn't really know where to start. And I'd fall into the trap, I think, of a few days down the line just repeating myself or not putting anything of substance down. So I think it's something I'd like to try again. I'm probably in a better mindset now than I was, and just really give it a go and put some time in, because for other reasons it sort of helps with your sleep pattern, and it's that time to rewind at the end of the day and reflect. So I know you're a big advocate, have you got any advice in that space?
Yeah, so all people that work with me, every client that works for me, I always say you've got to journal. Now, it doesn't mean you have to finish it out at the end, but I'm saying, hey, this is a very, very free tool. Everyone's got a half-used notepad. Cool, use that. I've got about 6 pencils and pens next to me. Everyone's got a pen. It's a free tool. So a lot of the time we're looking for these amazing answers and we think it's going to cost us thousands. No. Pen and paper, and just start with, today I'm feeling.
Yeah.
And just free write. So what you do is you set a timer for 5 minutes and don't let the pen stop moving. And just write, today I'm feeling. You might be like, I don't know how I'm feeling today. Okay, we've still got another 4.5 minutes left. So keep writing. And what happens is, when we're getting into this flow state, it almost becomes meditative. Because you've got two parts of the mind. You've got your conscious mind and your subconscious mind. We're not bothered about the conscious mind. That's the thinking mind. What we want is the subconscious. That's where our programs live. That's where our beliefs live. That's what we're trying to tap into. So by journaling like this, where you're free writing, I normally say 10 minutes. We're going to start with 5.
Yeah.
You start off writing. What happens is your conscious brain will start writing, yeah, today I'm feeling a bit like this. And then the more you start writing, the more you're not thinking about it and you're just writing and you're writing and you're writing. What's happening is your subconscious is then taking over. Right now, you are not talking to conscious Daniel. I've got no clue what I'm saying. You're actually talking to my subconscious. And that's quite a bizarre concept to think about. I'm not sat here thinking, yeah, and then I'm going to say this, and then I'm going to say that.
Yeah.
No. My subconscious is just talking to you. The same thing when it comes to journaling. And as I said at the very start of this, no one knows you better than you know yourself. So by journaling, you're literally self-counseling, you're self-coaching. Because what's going to happen is, by the time, how many times have you had a problem, you spoke to someone about it, and as soon as you spoke about it, you're like, oh yeah, I know the answer to that.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. It's the exact same thing. You're writing it out there, and what starts happening is you start to correct it. Yesterday I'm feeling really rubbish. I'm not really sure why I'm feeling rubbish. And then, oh, well, I've not been to the gym for a few weeks, and yeah, I'm eating rubbish. And you start, and by the end of it, you're like, well, yeah, no wonder I'm feeling rubbish. But you have come to that conclusion yourself.
Yeah.
It's a lot more powerful when you come to these conclusions than when I say to you, do you know what, Simon? You say to me, you've been to the gym and you've not been for a while. I think that may be it. And you're like, no, it's not that, Dan. It's definitely not that. I'm like, Simon, you said you're having a takeaway every night. No, Dan, it's not that, mate. It's definitely not that. But when you come to the realization, you're like, oh, right, okay, yeah, better do something about this. And it's such an easy tool. Now, the reason why you're not very good at it is because, like I said a few minutes ago, you've not done it before. It's like if you, again, the heart of my foundation, if you go on your normal like Snowdon walk and it's the nice route, easy. But if someone says to you, Simon, we're going to go up this route, we've never done it before, we're not even sure it's an actual route, that's going to be hard. That's going to be really difficult. But then after you've done it once, twice, 3, 4 times, it's going to be easy for you. It's the exact same thing when it comes to journaling. And then the key thing you mentioned here, and it's really interesting you said this, is because I had a conversation with a client about this yesterday, and he was saying, my journaling seems to be quite samey at the minute. And I went, it's samey because it needs to be samey. There's something in what you're saying that you need to hear. It's like with deodorant. You don't just put it on once and it's like, yeah, don't stink anymore. No. You've got to keep putting it on daily. You've got to keep washing. It's the same thing. Maybe you're journaling the same thing because that's what's relevant right now and that's what you need to hear. So I said, rather than thinking it's samey, why don't you actually look at it and deep dive it a bit more and ask yourself, what is this actually saying to me? What am I saying to myself down here? And what action do I need to take to overcome this obstacle or barrier that I'm facing? And his face just dropped and went, yeah, it's quite simple, isn't it? I went, yeah, it's all right. This stuff is very simple. And that's the thing that frustrates me about it and why I get so passionate talking about it, is that when I was struggling, all this information was out there.
Yeah.
But no one talks about it. And I'm like, what do you mean journaling's free? What do you mean gratitude? What?
Yeah.
Where's this come from?
Yeah. With the journaling, do you read it back? Do you reflect on it? Or is it a case of you unload your mind onto the paper, that's like you done for the day, put it to one side, go again tomorrow? Or do you look, if 7 days down the line, do you read back the week before or a year before? Or what's the sort of end goal to it for you?
So I don't recommend anyone read it back unless they want to. Like, so it's not a prerequisite, they've got to read it back. It's interesting you mentioned as well about, you said about the morning. When people work with me to start off with, if they are in a bad place, I say journal morning and evening.
Okay.
So what happens is you're starting in the morning and you're putting on what I call your suit of armor. So you're touching base with yourself. So you're waking up and you're checking in. The first thing you're checking in. You're not worried about the outside world. You're checking in. How am I today? How am I feeling? That then sets you up for the day perfectly. Now, the day might go rubbish. It might absolutely nosedive. That's okay. What then tends to happen is if we finish the day on a negative, we go to bed on a negative, and then we wake up in the morning on a negative. So if you can then journal in the evening and just reflect, how was I feeling today? What went well? What didn't go well? And what 3 things I'm grateful for the day? Then what happens is you go to bed more of a neutral or positive.
Yeah.
So then you go to sleep more positive, then you wake up more positive. And it sounds really simple, but the compounding interest of doing that is exponential. Because what will happen is after the first 7 days, if you're journaling morning and evening, you'll start to wake up in more of a positive mood. Because as you mentioned about journaling and the gratitude, why do you sleep better when you do it? Because what happens is we can't sleep because our brain is ruminating.
Yeah.
But actually, if you go to bed and you have a bit of a brain dump, so how did today go? What went wrong? Okay, what can I do about that? You basically problem solve. And maybe you've got a big thing you're thinking about the next day. Okay, well, write about it. Get it out of your head. So then what happens is when you're sleeping, your subconscious will start to work on it and process it. And then you may wake up the next day with some answers you didn't actually realize. So they're the 2 things I get people to do, morning and evening. And again, it's kind of, it works on from there.
Nice. No, thank you. I think the one other thing I wanted to touch upon before we sort of wrap up, and we're not providing any medical advice at all, but it's something we've talked about previously, is when someone is going into a low time and they are struggling, a lot of people will always insist or want to get medical assistance from doctors, GPs, etc. And I personally think doctors are too forthcoming with medication. I think it's very easy when you're not in that state to advise someone around how they could look after themselves and what they can do to perhaps intervene before medication's required. But have you got any advice you could give someone before seeking medical advice, or to analyze themselves to see if they really do need to have medical prescriptions to support themselves?
Great question. So for me, I'm not anti-antidepressants.
Okay.
If you need them, don't take them. Like if you're literally at that place where you are at rock bottom, you are genuinely in that very, very precarious place, go get yourself some antidepressants. However, my advice with this is you didn't get to that place because you lacked an antidepressant in your life. So for me, it's cool. You're really in that place where you're holding on. You need get them, get them. However, you're getting them with the understanding of now what? And this is where I think the medical system lets us down. They give you these tablets and off you go. Okay, well, great. Now what? Because as I said, you weren't depressed because you lacked an antidepressant. Something is fundamentally wrong. And that's what we need to kind of figure out. For me, emotions are like car dashboard lights. When the engine light goes on, that's saying, you check on your engine, something's not quite right here. If you're struggling with depression or severe anxiety or anything else like that, that is your body saying to you, something is not right. You need to check out what's going on here. Now, again, you go to the mechanic, they put a little thing on it, cool. But then that's like the doctor giving you an antidepressant. The mechanic turned around and said, that's not fixed. You need to bring it back and do some work on that. This is what we're going to do, some diagnostics. That's helpful. So when you get there, it's then realizing, okay, now what? So you get that, and then it's looking at, again, either get some coaching, therapy, counseling, whatever it is, to do the work and figure out why do I need antidepressants? And if you're on antidepressants, don't ever just come straight off them because they work on your brain chemistry. You should always seek medical advice to come off them because you need to slowly come off them. But to the original question you asked about before that, yes, if you're noticing you're going down a slippery slope, the car dashboard lights going on, that's the time to start to look under the hood. What's going on here? Why do I think I'm feeling this way? What's happened? And again, seek medical help, like therapists, counselors, helplines, speak to your friends. But I would just start with pen and paper, write it out. Why do you think that you're struggling right now? What's caused it? Just bring some light to it. Because what I say to people is, how do you destroy darkness? Turn on the light. That's what you need to do. You need to shine some light on these areas that potentially you've left in darkness for a while. So as you shine some light on them, they're not as scary, and you can start to get a hold of them.
Perfect. No, thank you. I think that's great advice, and I think it's something that people don't necessarily think about is the succession planning of going on to antidepressants. How do they then address the issues that got them into that place? So that is no, thank you very much. Well, Dan, I think thank you very much for your time. Thanks for taking some time out to speak with me. I'll put a link to your content, your page for anyone to follow you and to reach out to you directly. We are hopefully going to be working together next year for people that come through therapy with the Hike with Mike Foundation to come on to working with yourself as well. So looking forward to that. But no, thank you very much. Really enjoyed it. Cheers.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks, Simon.